Mhm. Okay, so my name is Irene Mendez. I'm the Global Program Specialist here at Rice Global, and we're here with Professor Alexander Ruggieri, who's going to talk about his course this summer at the Rice Global Pear Center. So I'll pass it on to you, Professor, and then we'll pass it back on to me to talk about the program.
Yes. Hi, Irene, and hello, everybody who's watching. My name's Alexander Regier. I'm the Lim Faulkner Professor of English and the Chair of the English Department here at Rice. I'm also a member of MCLC, the Department for Modern and Classical Literatures and Cultures. I came here in 2009 from Cambridge, and where I spent over a decade. And originally, my background's kind of all different and mixed up, as I'm from Germany, but also I've got Latin American roots. So that's one of the reasons why I love, a teaching and really comparative stuff, lots of different things, but also different kinds of cultural avenues and explore them and how they intersect. And this course I'm very excited about. And maybe, as Irene, you mentioned, what I could do is I could just share my screen
Mhm.
um, and do this. 1 second. Um, there we go. Um, can you see that, Irene?
Yes, it's perfect.
The else too. Um, yes, so the course is called Romanticism, Ruins, Race, Revolution. And really, it's, well, as you can tell, the course number is English 339. Don't get scared by the 300 number at all. As you'll see, the course was, sort of highlighted and by the Rice admissions already, both online and on Instagram and also on YouTube. You can check that out if you want. Um, as a course that really connects and is really interdisciplinary and connects lots and lots of different parts of the curriculum. That is also why it's um, it has D1 credit. So that's an important thing, I think, and there are no prerequisites. So don't be afraid of just because it's got a 300 number. You can come to it without, a massive prior knowledge or any prior knowledge of literature or visual culture. We'll be looking at lots of history. We'll be looking at poems and novels, but also at lots of visual materials, including, of course, um, actual pictures in the Louvre, but also architecture. We'll go to Versailles, and we're looking at lots of different kinds of cultural artifacts, if you like, and compare them. So we will be using, and this is the kind of twist on this course, Paris really as a map to explore why these 4 Rs, if you like, the Romanticism, Ruins, Race, and Revolution are really important and are kind of really exciting and interesting, not just concepts, historical concepts, but things that really shape us until today. So if you think of like a romantic dinner, for instance, what is the romantic, and Paris as the most romantic of all places. Maybe there's a link also to why Paris is the center of the French Revolution, and maybe there's a link between those two, and that we'll explore that. As you can see here in the points, we'll have short readings, but we'll have lots of site visits, museum visits, presentations, and we'll create over the period of the course a kind of a really diverse writing portfolios that you can, not just have one particular form of writing, but it'll be all very exploratory. And really, the class is a cultural experience, if you like, to connect the texts, the buildings, the actual space, because that's the special thing about being in Paris and having that course. So why those, concepts? Revolution, French revolutions. How did the French Revolution, it started in Paris, shape the modern world? We believe in, what is the sense of, the important, one of the big ideals was equality. That's one of the major sort of things that really, drives us today, still. we'll be discussing whether we want revolution or we want reform. Do we want to, explore those on site and also see the actual consequences of going with one or the other. We'll be going to Parliament and seeing how that actually then is reflected in the political realm. We'll be looking at race as one of the most important factors, also in terms of revolutions, not just because they were not just French Revolution, of course, in Paris, but there's the Haitian Revolution, which has big connections to Paris, and then links up directly with the idea of what race is, and of course what slavery is back then. The slave trade is under great scrutiny and great discussion at the time. So we'll be looking at that and figuring out how it's relevant again for us today, and what traces we can find in Paris of it, and really discuss that. And then lastly, ruins. Irene, I don't know, maybe you agree, but we find ruins still fascinating. Like, we go to ruins and we look at them when we go to Rome, when we go to Paris, when we go to lots of places. Here on the top left, you can see like a wedding, for instance, in Paris, in a ruin, right? Why do people do that? Or down there, on the bottom left, you see Detroit, like it's a ruin that's still in America, right? Would kind of concern us. And we'll be linking on the bottom right, you see a map of the monuments and ruins in Paris, right? 1870 to 71. People are really kind of interested in this since the Romantic age. And we'll be figuring out what that means in terms of history, right? Because you start thinking about history and the past when you see a ruin, but also in terms of the future. And why these kinds of buildings, and again, we will be looking at them right there, matter to us today. And so it'll be a really exciting way of figuring out how we can interact with the city and with one another, learn from one another, be very open in the dialogue about why these crucial concepts matter and really shape the way which we think and feel today also. We'll be doing that, as I said, through all of these excursions. There's in the syllabus and the sample syllabus, you can see there's a real plan as to how and when we're going to do that, and we're going to mix things up. So we're going to go sometimes we're going to go to the place and then we come back to the classroom and really think together about what that did to us when we go to the Louvre or when we go to Versailles. But sometimes what we'll do is also we'll read about the places beforehand and then go and then check how they match up to the reading that we've done, or the analysis, or the conversations that we've had. So the class is really varied. It's going to be different from week to week, so it's not always the same kind of structure. And that's something so that we can keep it lively, we can keep something, that we can keep the conversation going. So I think that hopefully that gives us sort of a broad overview. Obviously, there's a syllabus. Obviously, I'm always available to talk about, about the course. And the last thing I should say is that it also lives from input, right? It depends on the class is also shaped depending on who is there and what people are interested in and what is most useful and productive for the students in the classroom. Of course, there's a shape to it, and of course, Paris is central to that shape, but we also want to be open here, I think all of us, to sort of adopt what is really most useful, productive, and also fun. That's the most important bit in many ways, that want to continue learning in that regard. So I hope that gives a good sort of overview. Happy to talk about the materials, about the anything, the course materials, the assessments, whatever
Yeah.
you.
I mean, what are you thinking that's gonna look like since it's in pairs and it's 3 weeks long? Um, just thinking about how you're gonna do the assessment part of it, and using pairs as a classroom is different than, for example, Rice coming into classrooms here at Rice.
Yes. So maybe one way to sort of mm, illustrate that is the really deep connection, how we're going to use Paris as a map, if you like. Let me just, because I think you've seen my notes here.
Mhm.
Let me just uh, stop sharing. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that way I can also see you in a screen. So um, it's really the places, the chance to go to these places and see them as real. I mean, it sounds so funny, but as real 3D examples and lived experience of what it means to be in the place that really changes the history and the way in which we think still, and to trace that. And how that then connects to the assessments is it is part, in a way, of um, recording our experience and recording our thinking about why that is different there than it might be in the abstraction of the classroom. So,
Mhm.
often we talk very abstractly about these things, but, I think if you go to Versailles and see just the splendor and just the exuberance and the just amazing richness, and quite frankly, the kind of obscenity of the wealth that existed, and then you realize how poor people were, right? Then you realize it on a different level why that kind of revolution was happening, why the gap, the disparity in wealth and so on, led to certain kinds of political um, trajectories. Um, I think it makes a difference to realize what the space of the city is like, what the city, really is, how the city is constructed, and be in those places and travel from one to the other, right? To go to the Louvre, to go to uh, not just the museums that we have, if you like, inherited from the 18th and the 19th century, but also to modern sites about where you can still see um, the 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 sort of history alive in that place. And that is something that I'm very excited about, to do that together. And again, that's a very different thing. I think if you do that in a group, and if you do it, while you're having a conversation, than if you're doing it on your own when you're just, visiting one place, and then really, you've got a lot of other things on your agenda that you still got to do.
Mhm.
That really makes a big difference, I think. Um,
Yeah, sounds amazing. I would have loved to take this class when I was in college. And such a great experience to actually be in Paris, while you're talking, like you said, about these specific places that you would, it's sort of abstract when you're sitting in a classroom as opposed to like actually being there.
Well, and
Um, yeah.
there's also the really exciting thing is where you realize how things that you might have carried along all this time, like what romanticism is or what romantic is, and why that, you think about it as like a contemporary thing, actually has roots all the way back.
Mhm.
Um, and that those roots are always complicated and but really interesting and exciting to discover. So, that you realize, oh, um, there is a history to the way in which we think certain things that are normal, become normal. And that allows us to sort of think and imagine ourselves to be also different people, and both historically but also geographically and culturally. And that part is really important for, of course, the component that deals with race, but not just that, but also really in terms of the revolution and the ruins, because you get to, and that's, I think, one feedback I got from students that have taken the class, that you get to really there's a real interest in figuring out how do other people experience the world,
Mhm.
both in the past but also now, and how does that matter to us, and lets us rethink and re-examine the way we think, and that can be really positive and good, and to do that in a different place than the way that where we normally are, that's, I think,
Mhm.
adds to the experience really, and makes that really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds great. I'm really excited for this course, and I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about specifically, or
I would say that, maybe I didn't get to talk all that much about this. So with about the materials, we were looking at poems and histories, but also lots and lots of, kind of paintings, of course, and not just on the screen, but actually there in the museum and in front of us, and buildings and how these things interact, right? So, um, there are these people who write about ruins and why we go there, and they reflect on it. And these are bestsellers at the time. And then you read them and think, oh, that sounds actually super contemporary. It's really, really interesting. The way in which, certain images have become sort of synonymous with ways of thinking and how we post them on, be it Instagram or, you know, the way in which we, kind of operate. That I think that the kind of the variety of things that we'll be looking at of all of these different materials, whether it be histories or poems or plays or film or painting, architecture. That's, I think, one of the things that is special about this course, because you'll be doing lots and lots of different without having to be buried in the library forever and ever and ever. So we'll be doing them in an interactive way.
Yeah, it's something about this program that we love is just thinking of Paris as the classroom. So like being able to see these actual structures that you look at a picture at when you're here at Rice, as opposed to being there and actually being able to experience that in real life. So
And
I,
react to it, right? I mean, if you do a,
Mhm,
like, we'll be doing a little podcast, right? If you're doing a podcast about Napoleon, it's different if you're doing it in Paris when you're there where you can see where he was and what he was doing and the people around him. Then if
mhm.
you're, you know, I love Rice Campus, don't get me wrong, but
It's
it's
great.
different,
Yeah.
right? Doing it here. So that's, I guess, what I'm
Yeah, because you get a more like a actual reaction to things when you're experiencing it as opposed to just reading about it, which you still get a reaction from that, but it's a lot different
oh
when
yeah.
you're actually there
Doing it day to
visiting.
day. I think that's
Hmm.
the other thing. If you're doing it in the morning, if you're reading about it in the morning and then you're going it to the place in the afternoon, right?
Hmm.
Or the other way around, that's different, and doing it in this compact way than doing one thing on Monday and then talking about it on Friday.
Yeah.
Again, that's a good thing too, but it,
Mhm.
it makes a difference, that having that intensity of the experience.
You are immersing yourself in this course.
Absolutely.
Um, and and also, students are going to be living there. So maybe
Right.
outside of class time, they're like checking out all this there, I'm sure you'll be doing outside of class work or
Oh yes,
assignments
lots.
and
We'll be doing lots of
things.
things.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it, but maybe, starting a revolution in Paris, that could
Yeah. There you go.
maybe it's a little dangerous though. Um,
Maybe not that far, but definitely they'll have time to experience things on their own and then bring that experience back to the classroom. Um, and it's such an immersive experience that's what's really amazing about having these courses in Paris. And the other thing, I spoke to a lot of students who, for them, it was actually a plus that it was a 300 level course. They could do a
hmm,
300 level course
right.
in 3 weeks in Paris, which is not like, when are you going to get the chance to do that again? And having such a, like, this course, there's no prerequisites. It's a, it fulfills the D1 requirement. And the fact that you can take a 300 level, like, and still do this experience, I think is really appealing to students. That's what the our student ambassadors have told me, and they were really excited about that opportunity.
Oh, that's
So,
great. I'm very
mhm,
glad about that. That's great.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I think the combination between, you know, it being um a 300 level, but also a D1, I think that's key. That's a real advantage. I think that's one of the reasons why I was also sort of highlighted, on social media, but also by the admissions office generally as a course where, people can really engage. But
mhm,
it is still open for everyone.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna just switch over and just briefly talk about the program. Let me share my screen. Um, and then this is just a QR code that will take you to the course site. And the course site has all the information that we've been talking about. Here we're going to have a link to this actual recording, so you'll be able to watch this recording on the web page, and then you'll be able to immediately apply right on the same page. And if you do have questions, you can always request information, and that will send an email to pariscenter@rice.edu. And if there's questions about the course, I can forward that to Professor Regier or like whatever, or
You
if
can
there's a
also contact me directly. I'm open.
perfect. And again, it has the information about the program itself, the dates, what's covered, and then the course details itself. And so I'll go back to here and just talk a little bit more about the program itself. So again, QR code to the course. This is Rice credit. There's no transfer needed. This is not like study abroad. It's just you get credit, you register, you get credit. It's really easy. Classes are in English with a Rice professor, as you can tell. You can earn either 3 credits, which this is a 3-credit course, so you'll get 3 credits for this course. And there is financial aid and global awards coming from our office available. So in the application itself, it will ask you if you're in need of any additional assistance. Just indicate that in the application, and we will work with you to see how we can help you do this program. And this is, again, just what's really nice about this program is a 3-week program, and then it has a lot of flexibility. So if you want to go and do an internship for the rest of the summer, or do a job, you're still able to do that, since it's such a short amount of time during the summer itself. For this course, it's session 2, so that's June 3rd to the 23rd. This classes will be held at the Rice Global Paris Center. Again, this is for any Rice undergraduate, and it, like the Professor Redre said, it satisfies the D1, and there's no prerequisites. Tuition cost is $1,800 per credit hour, and this is a 3-credit course. That tuition covers housing for your whole time in Paris. You'll get a Metro card for all 3 weeks. All course excursions, or all museums, everything like that, you will get as part of the course. You'll have 3 group meals and travel insurance. There is, like I said, financial aid available. If you already receive financial aid, you're eligible to receive financial aid for up to 9 credit hours a summer for 2 summers, 50% the tuition rate. So what we do with our acceptance is, once you get in the course, you'll get a letter detailing exactly what you have. So our office works with the financial aid office to tell us if you're eligible, and they'll tell us how much money you would get via financial aid. And then on top of that, we would also tell you in that letter how much assistance you've gotten from Rice Global. So we will be adding additional support if you request it. So make sure you request that in the application. We do provide both tuition and travel assistance. So there's option to get multiple awards to help you with this program. And you can check out our website, Paris Center for student programs, and I will go ahead and take us there so you can take a look at what that is. So if you go to our site, you go to Paris Center and then student programs. Here you have a lot of information about what the program is itself. If you go to 2025, this will take you to the page that lists all courses, including this course. And then you can click on learn more and apply. That takes you to that page where we're at. And then it also has actual information about the program. So there's a lot of FAQs. So if you have questions about application part or like what's provided, you can click on here. The other thing is the student life in Paris. So if you're curious about where you're going to live and what that looks like, we have a whole video from a student's perspective. Here's a map of the location. You can click here to look at what the housing looks like and what the center looks like. And then we have a ton more information here that you can learn about. So feel free to take a look at that. And I think that's it for me. Just our application deadline is January 31st. So you'll have time to think about it during winter break, and always feel free to send us an email if you have question at pearcenter@rice.edu. And we hope that you guys apply, and happy to answer any questions needed. And I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to say.
Well, I welcome, of course, I hope that people are excited about this course. I know that I certainly am. And any questions, let me know. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I think it's a terrific and really exciting and fun way to, spend three weeks in the summer. It's
Mhm.
fantastic. So, all for romanticism, all for revolution.
Sounds great. All righty. Well, thank you so much. Let me stop
Thank
the
you very much.
recording. Yeah.
All right.
Uh,